Good afternoon and welcome to Vector Institute's Research and Careers in AI. Today's session shines a spotlight on some of the wayfinders in artificial intelligence, with companies that have driven significant advances in AI and have captured our imaginations along the way. My name is Melissa Judd, and on behalf of everyone at Vector, thank you for spending this time with us, and a special thank you to our presenters, Google, NVIDIA, Thomson, Reuters, and Uber ATG for sharing some of their work. I would also like to acknowledge and thank our funders, the Province of Ontario, the Government of Canada through the Pan-Canadian AI Strategy administered by CFAR, and industry sponsors from across the Canadian economy, including the 4 companies presenting here today. I also wanted to pause to acknowledge the land on which Vector is located here in Toronto, what is now a meeting place for many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, as well as newcomers to Canada from around the globe. The land we are situated on is the traditional territory of many nations, the Mississaugas of the New Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed by the Mississaugas of the New Credit, and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. We are grateful for being hosted on this land. Now, before I introduce our first speaker, I did want to remind everyone that today's session is being recorded, and there is an opportunity to ask questions of our speakers at the conclusion of our 4 talks. In the meantime, though, feel free to queue up your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen with your question. And of course, if it's directed at a specific panelist, please remember to include their name. We're now going to transition to a conversation with our presenters, and to moderate, I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Joanna Thum, who is Program Manager of Student Engagement at Vector.
Thanks, Melissa. So I'm now going to invite all the speakers to return and turn their videos back on. I see that a lot of the speakers have already started answering some of your specific questions in the chat already, which is great. So I'm going to start with some of kind of the questions that apply to all the speakers here regarding skills that are needed to build an AI team, which a few people have asked already. So to start off, we understand that many different types of people are needed to make a strong AI team. Could you share more about your team's composition and the various roles, whether it be data scientist or engineer, as Sanja just mentioned, and the different skill sets and competencies you're looking for to make you meet your team's goals and objectives? So maybe we start with Raquel.
All right, so what's the secret sauce? I guess that's the question. So I guess that the team is composed of both researchers, research engineers, and engineers. So the researchers are the ones that basically are dedicated to create new technologies, attacking new problems, things that do not exist before. The research engineers are the ones that understand how to bring research prototypes into production, and the engineers are also are folks that understand also how to build tools to make research to be very efficient. So you need a team, in other words, so you need the researchers, right, and you need engineers that are able to really channel all that technology, because if you just do prototypes and they never see the real world, then you're not really getting the impact that you should have.
Great, Raquel. Maybe we'll go by order of speakers. So Donny?
Sure. So I think on my team, I would say there's like a third split. 1/3 is researchers that are primarily thinking about models and improving them, some such. 1/3 is what I would call machine learning operations and infrastructure, people who are like building APIs. We have sort of public facing APIs that deliver sort of AI insights. And then like internally, ML operations is, like how do we organize the work of the research team and the production team so that when they when they train models, we can get the good ones into production environment without too much hassle. And then 1/3 is what I would call solutions enablement, where we're actually working to put together the building blocks that the other teams are building into end-to-end solutions that we offer to customers.
Great, Shohreh?
Well, I think it's pretty much the same. For Thomson Reuters labs, we have basically data scientists. They are more like client-facing, understanding the types of problems that they want to solve, kind of mapping to the types of capabilities that they have. For our Center for Cognitive Computing, there are two main roles: research scientists and research engineers, and engineers. Researchers are mainly responsible for, after like understanding the problem, responsible for modeling, doing a lot of paper reading, and also writing code in like the production level codes. But after that, the code goes to engineers to be integrated in the product, doing lots of like testings and stuff.
Last but not least, Sanja.
Yeah, so my team is a research team. So I primarily started with researchers, and already, in the researchers, different topics, I guess, that are very important. So you want to have people with very different backgrounds. In my case, we had people expertise with computer vision, and then we soon realized we need someone with expertise in graphics. And then we soon realized we need someone with expertise with physics, right? So there is I'm kind of trying to compose a very well-formed team with very different complementary expertise that can all work together. But at the same time, we slowly realized that we actually do need engineers on our own team as well. One thing is for tech transfer, but the other thing is if you want to really build really high-end AI applications, you just really need people that are full-time doing this, basically, taking all the cool AI research and then, making it polished and something that can reach end users. So just recently, I basically hired, so 3 out of 16 people on my team are, I would call research engineers. And I would say that has really kind of, I think it's really a good idea to have, this kind of composition, because you can reach a lot more this way, even if you're a research team.
Great, thanks for sharing that. That kind of ties into another question I have. So we understand that technology is an interesting industry where a lot of your organizations are involved in advancing AI research. So some of you participate in research collaborations with different institutes and companies, and you participate in some of the AI conferences. So could you share a little bit more about what research looks like in your organization, such as the opportunities and expectations on that end for technical teams? So we'll start again with Raquel.
I was going to ask you to, so why don't we start with somebody else and then we go around. Let's see. So I guess research looks, so in my team, it feels very, very academic in the sense that, most of my PhD students are actually doing their PhD while being also in the lab, in the overlap. So in that sense, sort of your work is nothing but read papers and, for the particular projects that you are tackling. So, find sort of brainstorm, discuss solutions, implement them, test them, etc. Right? So that's sort of the same sort of work today that you will have in academia. The main difference is that when you are a PhD student, typically you are, you have your sort of your thesis direction, right? And basically there is no real connection to anything else necessarily that is going on in the lab. And this is not the case in the overlap, because we need to solve self-driving at the scale. It's a single problem, and all the different pieces that everybody's building are interconnected and are required, and there is dependencies everywhere. So there is a lot of strategy in terms of when we tackle what groups of a lot of overlapping people around, so that everybody gets to actually learn all the different aspects of the stack. Because if you want to build solutions for one particular thing, you need to understand everything, because it's a single system. So in that sense, it also opens the possibility, the possibility to really learn much more than just this one expertise that you typically do during the PhD. But it's very, very academic. So in that sense, it doesn't feel like, this is in any sense industry or production. Apart from you have the fleet, you see your algorithms in the real fleet, you actually make that impact, and the resources, obviously.
Great, super cool. To mix it up, because Raquel called me up, let's go to Shohreh.
Well, basically, we have two types of projects. One is product-based research projects. These ones are more like applied research. You have to be very up-to-date with the state of the art, but all you do is like towards a product. Then we have like research like fundamental research projects. These are more like in the academic setting, where we have annual like proposal submissions. We have to come up with the like what is the goal of this research, then what resources we want to have, like their 6 months, 1 year plans, and then based on the then these projects would be funded. Of course, these are like more, we have more freedom in choosing these ones, and we publish the results like in a, for the first one, the results still get published, but we have to probably wait until like the product is out, the patents have been figured out, and those are more published like in the applied track, whereas these research projects, depending on the fundings, we have like based mainly like between 2 or 4 of these research projects annually, and their results can be published in like the main track conferences.
Great, maybe let's do Sanja and then Donny.
Oh, you're alternating. All right, so let's see. So NVIDIA has a very large research organization. It has probably more than 200 researchers, kind of organized by topics, right? So you have, from graphics to computer vision to maybe more core machine learning algorithms. There is also applied research work, which in fact has delivered like a lot of these products you have seen. So this photorealistic rendering, some of this is done by AI, which was done in that group. Some of the speech models that have been released is done in that group. So there's a lot of different kind of groups. And the nice thing about NVIDIA is very collaborative. Like internally, it's really like, academia. We all talk, we have a lot of collaborations going. There's research talks, we invite internal, external speakers. So it really feels like an academia in that sense. But at the same time, it's a company, right? So you want to leverage all the good stuff that's happening in product or production. So I think that's the key difference between academia and doing academic research in a company, because you have a goal in a sense. You want to make something really good. And that basically informs research, and it also powers research, because it basically has a lot of engineering going in some of this, like this Omniverse that we're showing, but there's a lot of other stuff that you can leverage that you would never be able to do in academia. I would never be working a simulation in my U of T lab, because I just don't have the people, right? So I think that's kind of the key difference between research labs in industry versus academia. Plus, of course, a lot of GPUs since we're NVIDIA. But we also do external collaborations. I actually work a lot with professors outside of NVIDIA, just like open source research. So yeah, that's it.
Right. So I guess for Google, I mean, it's not that different than the other companies. I'll talk a little bit about what is different. I think my team in particular is very much an applied research group, where there's specific product goals and things like that the research is driving. The interesting thing at Google, I think, is that research is very decentralized. There is sort of like the main research organization, but if you look at it more carefully, it's like maybe 5 research organizations that are kind of scrambled together. And then within each product organization, there are separate research organizations within each one of them as well. So one of the jobs that my research team has is actually to go and identify collaborative partners even within Google, like what are the other teams that are working on similar things, and how do you create collaborations across these groups. So for example, for healthcare NLP, we will have core NLP we'll have other people interested in other aspects of healthcare, natural language processing, and stuff like that, and we'll sort of combine them together into a coalition of researchers working towards different parts of the same problem. And of course, we'll have some degree of external collaborations as well, although that is more the purview of the fundamental researchers rather than the applied researchers.
Great, thank you. So I think we have time for one more question. So I will ask, your organizations are all part of AI applications or projects for responsible, transparent, and ethical AI has been an important part of the discourse in mainstream media. So what are some of the ways that this is addressed with the context of specific projects or other work that your teams are involved in? Since Shohreh, you kind of focus on law and social media in your presentation, maybe we'll start with you first.
Sure. So we are trying to incorporate some of the new findings and some of the new approaches suggested in the literature of like ethical AI and fairness and accountability and transparency FATML literature. There are certain like traditional regulations, like for example, you cannot use features like race or gender in any of your machine learning models. But I have to say that's quite new. Like one of those research projects that we had is basically in ethical AI to figure out what should be done. I admit the state is not really good, but we have started to work on that.
Great. Maybe over to Donny, Sanja, and then Raquel last to close us out.
Sure. So I would say, I mean, ethical AI is really top of mind at Google. Like we have, I mean, over time we've developed a huge amount of structure around how to review and make sure that the products that we're releasing meet the ethical standards that we've set for ourselves. I would say particularly in healthcare that ethical uses of AI is really an end-to-end business where like we're not thinking about like, I mean, I can make a product and I can say like, yes, our model, you know, meets these criteria and we're using it in a way which we think is good. But when you're looking at a healthcare application, like, you know, you have to see beyond just that component of the end solution. And you have to think about like, well, okay, fine, we released this model, but are people going to be using it in a way that it's not intended for? Are people going to assign more confidence to the predictions of this model than it's really warranted and things like that. So we have to think carefully about that aspect of it as well. And a lot of that is out of our hands. So like that, you know, a big piece of what we're doing is really educating the industry as well about like the use of, you know, AI, ethical uses of AI and how that sort of comes together.
Sanja?
Yeah, so I think just in terms of bias in AI and ethics around AI, I think this is a research topic, I guess, that's more recent. There's been a lot of investigation lately in the community, just trying to understand these biases that we're introducing into AI models. I personally don't work on that, but at NVIDIA, there's definitely you know, working groups and committees, I guess, that are discussing these topics, analyzing all the work that has been going on and ensuring that we have proper processes at NVIDIA that make us compliant with all these recent findings. In terms of just on my own research team, it right now is more common sense. We are a research team. We're doing, you know, papers that I don't think have any potential issues. But again, I think this is just like really active research area.
Over to you, Raquel.
Cool. So I guess, so first this is definitely top of mind, very important. So we look at things like biases in our models as well as our data to make sure that, you know, this is not the case. We look at things like, we want to build a product that works for everyone, everywhere, not just for the rich, not just in North America. We also care a lot about safety, right? We have a big team working on this. And in particular, as it relates to my team, we look at things like, how can we verify AI models? How can we have some safety guarantees with them? You know, is certifying models possible for the type of complex models that we have, adversarial examples that are physically, you know, realizable, etc. So there's a very rich, research direction in the group into how to look at these topics in the context of AI. There is definitely a lot more to come, but as everything in self-driving, there is still a lot to be solved.
Great. Thanks for that response, Raquel, and for everyone, for all our speakers. I don't think we have any time for more questions right now, but we will be collecting all of them, and hopefully we can get a few more of those answered for you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in today's webinar. We will be sending out a feedback survey later today, so please fill that out. It'll only take a few minutes, and we're always trying to improve our programming, so we appreciate responses. Thank you very much to all our speakers for your wonderful talks. And I hope to see you soon at our next event.
Thanks for the invitation and stay safe.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.